Welcome, everybody, to Gresham College. My name is Sarah Hart. I'm the Provost here at Gresham. For those of you that are in the room physically here this evening, just to make you aware, if there is an alarm, we haven't got one planned, so if you do hear a fire alarm, please exit at the back where the exits are marked. We're not expecting that to happen, so fingers crossed. For those watching online, and actually for those of you who are here, we will have some questions, time for questions at the end of the lecture. If you're watching online, there's a QR code that you can scan, and then you can type in your questions, and I've got a little tablet from which I can read them. If you're here in the audience in person, time-honoured raising of the hand will effect a question being asked. We do have a roving microphone, so if you can wait for that when the time comes, that will be very helpful so that everyone can hear the question. So that's enough from me. It's now time to introduce this evening's speaker. He's a very eminent barrister. He was a QC, now he's a KC, of course. Sir Peter Thornton. He was the first Chief Coroner of England and Wales, and he now is a visiting professor at King's College in London, where he teaches about coroners and inquests. He trains coroners and judges internationally across the world. This is the first of two lectures he will give at Gresham College this year. The second one will be in February, so if that's not already in your diaries, make sure to add it in. But he's written and thought extensively about planning for our later years, and that's what he's going to speak to us about this evening. So please join me to welcome Sir Peter Thornton to speak on the later years, organisation, independence, and peace of mind.
Good evening. Nearly 1 in 5 of the population in the United Kingdom is 65 or over. That's a lot of people, more than 13 million. And if you add a year and go to 66, the current state pension age, that's more than £125 billion a year, which the government has to find. The largest part of the benefits budget, and increasing. The proportion of over 65s is projected to become 1 in 4 by 2050. But we can't just sit around being gloomy. That's the wrong way of thinking. This is not just an older age group, not just a series of big state bills. It is a group of 13 million individual people, all different, but with experience, talent, friends, and family. As Mark Twain said, age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Or as Shirley Bassey put it, you don't get older, you get better. Up the oldies. And based on the last census, the over 65s, in fact, are happier, less anxious, and have a greater sense of self-worth than any other age group. We are faring better on many measures of personal, social, and financial well-being than our younger counterparts, and those still working at 75, like me, report the greatest job satisfaction of all ages. The tone of this lecture, therefore, is positive, practical, and purposeful. And if I find another word beginning with P, I may need a short break. As Stephen Fry said, I don't need you to remind me of my age. I have a bladder to do that for me. So how should we promote and maintain this high level of well-being? I have a few suggestions to make, and I set them out in my book, The Later Years, not the final years, please note, and certainly not eternal years. I think it was one of Tom Stoppard's who said, I'm not sure about this eternity business. When will it ever end? I want to acknowledge and emphasize the importance of older life and a few steps we can take to be a bit more organized, to stay independent longer, to live at home longer, to enjoy life a bit longer, and importantly, to have a voice through thick and thin and peace of mind. So let's start with organization. My book's subtitle is The Simple Guide to Organizing the Rest of Your Life. And a little organization for your later years is really not a bad idea. If you are more organized, you will at least have that voice. First, in a will. Obviously, I'm afraid, in a will. Who gets your money and possessions? Do not die without a will. Do not die intestate. You will lose your voice, your choice, and the state will decide for you. Just as an example, you have a much-loved long-term partner. But if you don't happen to be married or in a civil partnership, that partner will get nothing. The state decides. The short answer is make a will, give clear instructions, or indeed get married. The law is much more generous to those who are married or in a civil partnership, even if you marry late in the day. Sir Ken Dodd, the much-loved Liverpool comedian, married his long-term partner Anne when he was 90, just 2 days before his death. There may have been all sorts of reasons for this, not least love and affection, but there would have been clear benefits financially for his new wife on his death. If there was no will, she would still get everything, even if there was... So she would still get everything. And what's more, by being married, she could inherit his estate, a very substantial one by all accounts, totally free of inheritance tax. Otherwise, she might have had to pay up to 40% inheritance tax on the bulk of the estate. So do make a will. Many people don't. Many people haven't. According to the government-sponsored Money and Pensions Service, 53% of 50 to 64-year-olds have not made a will, and 22% of 65 and older persons have not. One of my favorite wills is that of the 16th century French writer, François Rabelais. I owe much, I have nothing, I give the rest to the poor. Second, if you wish, make a lasting power of attorney. There are two types. Health and welfare is one. Property and financial affairs is the other. It's your choice. You decide in a power of attorney who your attorney is going to be, or your attorneys. Somebody who will look after you and your money if something goes drastically wrong, a stroke, a heart attack, dementia, and you lose that mental capacity to decide for yourself. So you obviously want close family or someone else whom you can trust to be your attorneys. It's £82 each, an LPA. Actually, it's gone up today. It's £92 today. You've just lost £10. So I'm sorry, I have to use notes. There are three things about getting older. First, you start to lose your memory. I can't remember the other two. Third, an advanced decision to refuse treatment, ADRT, sometimes called a living will. If it's in proper form, signed and witnessed, this is a legally binding document. It gives you, not the medics, the voice, if you want to have that voice, to refuse life-sustaining treatment, more or less at the point of death or not, such as CPR or artificial ventilation at a time in the future when you have stopped breathing or your heart has stopped beating and you are no longer in a fit state to decide for yourself. It's different from a DNR, a do not resuscitate notice, which may be a useful indication of your wishes, a DNR, but it's not legally binding and is more often to do with the doctor's say-so than yours. The formal ADRT is now the preferred document. Fourth, you can consider an advance statement, which is not a legally binding document, but a document which sets out your wishes, maybe for the sort of care that you might need to have, how you're going to be treated, what you like to drink in the morning, your tea or coffee, that kind of wishes for your care, for personal treatment, for details of your funeral, if you haven't put that in your will. I've got a friend called Leslie, and her partner, a very long-term partner, had to go into a care home because of his dementia. And she very cleverly created this laminate, 2 sides of 1 sheet of paper, for the care home. On one side, what she calls it, useful things to know about Harry. Harry's not actually his real name, but useful things to know about him. He is good company, affectionate, good-humoured, appreciative of his surroundings, physically fit and mobile, loved by his family and friends. He likes kindness, calm, jokes, gentle banter, playing Scrabble, watching TV, blah, 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 keeping his wallet with him, all things like that which were personal to him. He dislikes loud noise and loud talking. This may make him retreat to bed. Being ordered around, this may make him angry. Being touched or handled, this may make him violent. Having a shower or changing his clothes. So this is really important stuff for the care home to know. And she goes on to say what he can usually do for himself and often what he can't do for himself. And on the other side, on the simple sheet, a typical day for Harry, how he would like his routine to be this kind of routine set out. And I think that's such a wonderful, useful document. But you can do the same sort of thing in an advance statement about your wishes. And last on this slide, even a little memoir to pass on to your family or friends. Who you are, what is your family history, who are your family relatives, what have you done in your life. My brother-in-law's done an 80-page one. I'm afraid I haven't read all of it yet, but you may want to just give something maybe to your children who they won't read it now, but one day they'll come back to it and say, oh, that's helpful. I'm going to go back to that document and have a look at it. I asked my parents, who lived into their 80s and 90s many years ago now, to give me their life history, and they gave me 1.5 pages each, double-sided, double-spaced. I don't know where they got the typewriter from. We never had one at home. And that was a bit short, and some of my mother's information I found out later wasn't entirely correct either. But it's a start. It's something to pass on, something about yourself and your family. So that's just a little organization. What are you going to do with it? You've created a few documents, you've taken your time, you haven't rushed it, you've gone down the list. I suggest that as part of your newfound organization skills, you should make these documents accessible. I suggest you keep them in what I call a death file. I call it that. It's not morbid, it's just practical. You can do it in an online company. There are a few of those, such as Smart Onion, which has my book on it somewhere. They all say it's as safe as houses, can't be hacked. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's safer than my file on the shelf, because my file is a paper file, paper documents in it. I'm afraid I'm of that age. Actually, it's a pink file, the file, not me. It doesn't have to be pink, that's not obligatory, but mine happens to be pink. I might have to change the color and somebody hears one of these lectures and breaks in. But now, and my wife and my children know where it is. And I don't mind them looking at it now. I tell them what's inside it. The contents should be the documents I've referred to, the will and the LPAs and so on, but also practical details like bank details, insurance details, property stuff, NHS number, GP details, contact details, solicitor, executor in the will, accountant if you have that sort of thing, and your personal memoir. Why a death file? Well, my file is my file, but it's particularly important after my death, at a difficult time for others, when the family will need some of these contents quickly. They're all there in the file, and it will help them in dealing with the 10 things that need to be dealt with after a death. So for those left behind, I refer to those 10 things in my book, 10 steps to take after death, 5 within 5 days, and 5 after that. You don't have to do these documents or create a death file. It's your choice entirely. You can do nothing if that's your wish. I'm certainly not telling you what to do, just the options that you have. But I do suggest that it might actually give you, as well as others, the younger ones, a bit of peace of mind. You've expressed your wishes, you've made them clear, you've put your affairs in order, you know what's what because you've written it down, you've checked to see that you haven't got an old building society account with money left in it, which is hopeless and should be taken out and put somewhere sensible. You've checked the insurance policies, you're in order. That's good. But also, you will know, and you will have that peace of mind, that those who will be left behind when you die have got some help from a little bit of organization by you. And according to recent research, which surprised me, if you are organized, you may even live a little longer, if you want to. The University of Edinburgh study in September suggested that being organized and responsible and conscientious might give you a little bit of breathing space in the last years of your life. So you've made your death file. You should have, if you can, that discussion with your children, with your family. It's not always easy to have that discussion. I suggest that it should really come from the older person to the younger persons. You start it. Be cheerful. Let the loved ones know that you want them to know your wishes in advance and for their peace of mind too. This is my will, my LPAs. These are my wishes. I just want you to know Let's not be morbid about this, but I know that conversation can be difficult, and I've talked to a number of people who have had that kind of conversation in quite different ways. Some children take it easily in their stride, others are very refusenick in their approach. And discuss, if you can too, with your GP, your ADRT, your advanced decision to refuse treatment, so that it gets into your medical notes. And discuss with your family too, so they know about you, know your wishes, and can refer to them when necessary. Paramedics may not have access to your ADRT at a time of emergency, but your trusted attorney under your LPA might be there to tell them. Difficult stuff, but I set out the options and how it works. So, health is, I think we all think about health, obviously, and it's perhaps rather an obvious topic. But just let me say a little bit about it. Sadly, we cannot always trust to have a healthy old age and long life. To be gloomy, 75% of 75-year-olds are said to have more than one long-term medical condition. It's not good. In money terms, the older generation is estimated to cost the state over £30 billion a year in medical and social care, coupled with 125 billion for pensions. We've just spent more than 150 billion pounds in 1 year, more than twice the defence budget. That may be a good thing or a bad thing. That's another conversation for another day. But there are steps on health that we can take, even little steps, and I rely not upon my wisdom, which is not very much in these areas, but on the research of others who seem to be providing sensible suggestions out of their research. And research shows, expertise shows that every little helps. By health, I mean physical, mental, and social health. Physical health, physical activity of some sort, however little, although more is, of course, better. Sydney University study this year said that just 1 minute a day of incidental activity, as they call it, such as carrying heavy shopping bags, may lower the risk of dying within 6 years by 38%. Maybe. Another recent research paper suggests that just 3,000 steps a day is good to slow the onset of cognitive decline, although 5,000 to 7,000 is better, they said. The NHS advice is to aim for 2.5 hours of moderate intensity exercise a week. Physical health obviously also includes healthy eating, good sleeping, no smoking, and less alcohol. Not perhaps Tommy Cooper's health advice. I'm on a whiskey diet. I've lost 3 days already. Mental health, work, activities, mind pursuits, learn a musical instrument or a foreign language, anything that provides mental stimulus and often has social connotations too, because social health is important, particularly to avoid loneliness. I've been reading 2 books on age and aging, one by an immunologist, writing about the different ways we die and how best to avoid them. The other by a psychologist assessing the 80-year-old Harvard study of adult development. Both emphasize the importance, if not the greatest importance, of social health. Improving your social fitness by connecting to other people. Having a better, happier life through good social relationships engaging in social activities with friends and family, on holidays and meals out. Keep meeting, keep chatting. More recently, even more recently than those books I've been reading, another book by another immunologist has come out making exactly the same point. The emphasis on health here is on social health. And yet another research study in August this year shows that a group of super agers, as they call them, in their 80s, scored particularly well on memory tests, as good as those in their 50s, because they were particularly sociable and relished activities, even though they had some negative health factors, health indicators, such as smoking and drink. I'll see you in the pub afterwards. Playing bingo or card games, writing letters, even attending public lectures may reverse frailty, said a study subsidized this year by the British Heart Foundation. And even though technology can keep us away from others, less face-to-face contact, it can even be beneficial to keep up contact just even by email, say the experts. Some contact is better than none. Although Oscar Wilde wasn't too keen on any of this health stuff. He said, to get back to my youth, I would do anything in the world except take exercise, get up early, or be respectable. Well, I'm not asking you to be respectable. That would be a step too far. And as various studies have shown, including the Harvard study, it's never too late to build a better life, even in a small way. All the studies say taking a bit of exercise, taking it up at this later stage is good. Taking up a mental challenge is good, to make new friends and keep up with the old ones. So let me turn to a summary of some of the other topics I deal with in my book, which I think are important for us or for those of us who are looking after older relatives, older parents, survival and protection. Make sure your locks are good. I mean, that's fairly obvious, but not always carried out. Check out your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, particularly carbon monoxide. Gas, of course, particularly North Sea gas, has a smell because it has the smell added to it. But carbon monoxide has no smell, and you can't see it. It's not like smoke. And as a coroner, chief coroner, I was involved with inquests where even 2 people died in one house as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning. It could just spread from maybe a faulty gas fire, faulty gas oven, an open fire or a wood-burning fire. So you must have those carbon monoxide alarms near at hand. Think also about warning alarms or other systems for medical emergencies, some of them perfectly good AI systems, particularly for that fall, which may take an older person by surprise. All for peace of mind, just as a scam-free existence would be nice for peace of mind, but unfortunately, we're surrounded by scams all the time. But I suggest you can learn how to be watchful, to beware of cold callers at the door, and the many, sadly, everyday tech scams. There is no doubt that older persons are inevitably more vulnerable than younger ones, but being a bit more vulnerable because of age doesn't mean you can't learn to be properly wary. And if in doubt, check with somebody else, somebody you can trust. These things can be pretty grim, affecting self-esteem and confidence badly. It's reported on the City of London website, for example, that somebody called David Clarkson and 5 others targeted victims aged 60 to 90 in a £6 million investment scam using high-pressure sales tactics, with 150 victims and losses up to £250,000 for one person. Mostly older victims, and I suppose you could say also an example of being active in your later years. Mr. Clarkson was 70 when he was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. But perhaps not quite the right sort of mental activity I had in mind. How to stay at home longer if this is appropriate to your circumstances. Get help from the local authority on adapting the home with such things as grab rails, walking aids, maybe sharing your home, that spare room, with a lodger who for a reduced rent can help out a bit, maybe with tech stuff. For example, using one of the matching schemes which help you find someone suitable and find someone suitable carefully. Even a bit of decluttering and sprucing up your home for you and for your visitors. And obviously enough, consider when downsizing might be appropriate into something more manageable, more suitable, and even to free up some cash. All positive. Think too realistically about when you may need a bit more help. Visiting carers, living carers, and ultimately a move to sheltered or supported accommodation, and where necessary, a care home. All hopefully to be thought about at the right time, if not before, and hopefully to be discussed with your family. Not easy. So I'm just going to change tack a little bit more with a Charter of Rights for older persons. In my book, I set out a Charter of Rights for older persons. I do not have time today to address some of the challenges we face, such as the urgent need to fund and reform the social care system, to take steps to protect the vulnerable from pensioner poverty, to avoid digital exclusion, to name but 3, but I would welcome the introduction of a Charter of Rights for older persons. So I've drafted one. A benchmark guideline with minimum standards for dealing with older persons in the 21st century. And I use the word older person. I don't wish all older people to be lumped together. They, we, are individuals forever. We have the UN Convention for the Rights of a Child, but no convention, no Charter of Rights for older persons, and in England, we have no Commissioner for Older People. There is one in Wales, there is one in Northern Ireland, there was nearly one in Scotland, but we don't have one in England. And I see a charter as particularly a frame of reference for education and training for hospitals, care homes, banks, supermarkets, all those who are frequently dealing in some way or another, particularly in the medical sphere, with older persons, so that they provide essential good practice as they engage with older persons based on dignity, respect, and self-reliance, having that voice forever, so that we have that voice which is heard and not stifled because of age or because we are seen to be perhaps not very good in some way or another because of age. Less ageism, less discrimination, more job opportunities for experienced older workers with expertise. After all, the state pension age, currently at 66, is likely to rise soon to 67 and then further beyond. That's my book. Another Liverpool theme. I'm coming to the end. I talked about Ken Dodd. Brian Patton, one of the Liverpool poets, sadly died in September this year. And as a student back in 1966, a long way back, I remember Roger McGuff, another Liverpool poet, writing about death in his inimitable style. Let me die a young man's death, not a clean and in between the sheets, holy water death. Not a famous last words, peaceful, out of breath death. When I'm 73 and in constant good humor, may I be mown down at dawn by a bright red sports car on my way home from an all-night party. Sadly, not quite so many all-night parties now. In fact, none at all. But more time for a little quiet reflection, or to rewrite the lyrics of a hit song in memory of an old client of mine, Marianne Faithfull. This is the evening of the day. I sit and watch as years go by. It is true that in youth, we sometimes run into difficulties, and in old age, difficulties sometimes run into us. Health mostly, but sometimes things like tech stuff too. Someone said, I hate living in the 21st century. I'll never get to heaven because I won't remember the password. But never mind. It's not how old you are, but how you are old. Living life as best we can, whatever the circumstances, that's my motto. And as we lawyers say, pro bono publico, no panico. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Peter. That was absolutely fascinating and really informative lecture. And just for people in the audience who are thinking, oh gosh, I must remember all of this. All of these lectures at Gresham are, as well as live streamed, they are recorded. So in a few days, you will be able to watch it on YouTube as many times as you like to jot down any of those all-important points, as well as, of course, buying Sir Peter's book, naturally. So we have some time for questions. If you are in the hall and you'd like to ask a question, if you would raise your hand, because we've got a microphone that will come round. Oh, I can see already there's a question right up here at the front, Angela. And then there's also some questions online, which will kind of alternate.
Please don't ask any questions that I can't answer.
Thank you, Sir Peter. About wills, I was under the impression that if you die without a will, your next of kin, it goes to your next of kin, but is that not correct?
I have to write it out. No will, intestacy. If you are unmarried and not in a civil partnership, you get nothing. If you are married or in a civil partnership and there are no children, you get everything. If you are married or in a civil partnership and there are children, you get the estate up to £322,000. That's the 2025 figure, plus half of the remainder. The other half is shared equally between children. If there is no spouse, the strict order of relatives is first children equally, second surviving parents if there are no children, third full blood siblings or half blood siblings if there are none of the above, then grandparents, then aunts and uncles, in that order. And finally, the punchline, as far as the state is concerned, if there is no spouse, no children, no blood relatives, the crown gets the lot.
Okay, we'll have a question from online. So the question is, so someone asked, as someone with caring responsibilities for a disabled child, is there anything extra I should include in my planning for old age? So they have...
Difficult question.
Yeah.
It's how you see the world of older age and what you are preparing for your child, for the future, for the time when you are no longer there, and what will be best, what arrangements will be best, and whether, in order to help your disabled child, obviously I don't know or wish to discuss the disability, thinking about a lasting power of attorney, some trusted adult who will be able to deal with your affairs in relation to the disabled child if you die, or if you lose your mental capacity. Sorry, not if you die. An LPA does not work after death, but if you lose your mental capacity by stroke or heart attack or dementia.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is a big concern for lots of people, isn't it? That what will happen to the relatives if they are caring for someone? But yeah, this is, I guess, planning is...
Yeah, planning, thinking about it, discussing it. It's not, you don't have to do it all on your own. There must be somebody, you can trust, talk about. That's the important thing. Should I be doing this? Why am I going to do it? What are the good reasons for doing it? What are the bad reasons? I haven't actually made an ADRT myself. I feel a bit ambiguous about it. You can, of course, do what you wish, or you can leave it all to the medics. And I wonder how often in practice these things actually work, because they're sudden. The moment of life or death, or life being threatened by some sudden incident, is sudden. And maybe violent. Not everything is available. Not all the information is available.
Question over here.
Very interesting talk, thank you. You said that there was a commissioner for older people in Northern Ireland and also in Wales.
Yes.
But not in Scotland and not in England. So are we going to get one, or what has to be done to...
Well, Scotland, as I said, very nearly got one. There was some vote in the Scottish Parliament, I think, and it didn't quite make it. Obviously, there's a bit of funding to consider, but England has never really got near to it. The Council of Europe, which has the European Convention on Human Rights at the centre of its work, that's all of it up in the air at the moment. But the Council of Europe, which has 47 members, as opposed to 27 in the EU, does talk about ageing and ageing issues and difficulties and concerns. But on the whole, England has not been good at responding, or the UK has not been very good at responding to those issues. Quite a number of states have. They said, yes, that's interesting. What we shall do is blah, blah, blah. But on the whole, England and sometimes the UK has just kept quiet about it. Lack of interest. That's what I believe. The agenda, whatever that agenda is, does not generally include older people. So, for example, if you think, if there's going to be a bill going through Parliament, or an Act of Parliament, do you check that? as a matter of course to see whether it's older people proof. Is it going to affect them in some adverse way which we hadn't thought about? There's not a lot of representative talking on behalf of the older age group. More needs to be done.
But is age a protected characteristic, is it?
It is, yes, under the
legally
Equality Act. Yeah, absolutely.
So would that mean when a new law comes in, must it be checked in order to avoid indirect?
It's not checked with the sort of scrutiny
Right.
that I would like,
Yes.
as an older person, to see.
Nonsense. Older, maybe. Any other questions in the room? We've got one or two online, which I could. So someone says, these 5 things you have to do within 5 days.
Yes.
What are they?
What are they? Well, I'll get the book.
Yeah. If only someone had written a book about this topic. But don't tell us the other 5, right? Don't tell us the things.
You just want the first 5?
I mean, you can tell us all 10 if you like.
Yes. I have to refer to them because if I got it wrong,
Yeah, imagine, yes.
it
Yeah.
might be.
You can't have that.
And these things do change because
And I suppose, does this reflect, this is a law in England and Wales? Or is
Yes.
it in the, okay, so it might
Yes.
be different in Scotland?
it might be different in Scotland.
Okay.
It will be different in Scotland. Although, as far as I have been able to, I refer in the book to the differences between the countries. But this is mostly about England and Wales. For the first 5 steps, obtain the medical certificate of cause of death, the MCCD from the hospital or GP, or the care home's GP. Second, take it to the local registrar of births and deaths to register the death, although these can be done online. Thirdly, obtain from the registrar copies of the death certificate, a minimum of 3 copies, the green form certificate for burial or cremation, and a BD8 certificate about pensions and benefits. 4, inform government departments through the Tell Us Once service, pension, benefits, tax, driving license, and so on, because all of these government departments have to be notified. 5, instruct a funeral director, don't have to, but normally you would, to make arrangements, including burial or cremation. 5 within 5 days, that's got to get on with it. And it is difficult. I think I probably started this book because somebody said to me at one point, what do I have to do? My mother has just died. My grandmother has just died. And I sort of looked it up, and you can find all of these things somewhere, but not really put together in one place. That's the object of my book. But so I did a sheet with these 10 things on one sheet. I sent them that sheet. And a number of people have asked me for that sheet since, because it helps at a time when you may be grieving, where you may find it difficult to be organised, to think properly. Some people are the opposite. They want to have a nice organised structure while they're grieving shortly after a death. But either way, it will help, hopefully.
Thank you. Any other questions in the hall? Oh, there's one over here. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Are you aware of what attitude property insurers take after death?
I'm sorry, I missaid
Are
that.
you aware of what attitude property insurers take after death? Because the contract is with the deceased, not for the property. So does the house remain insured until you give them direction to the contrary under the existing contract, and similarly with motor car?
Yes.
Or are they then uninsured?
I'm not absolutely sure of the answer, but I am sure that you've got to tell them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And they will tell you. They may not be that willing to hand out money when you have a prang, but they will be quick to jump on you if they think that the policy is no longer valid and you have a car or a property. Yes.
Oh, Angela, there's one more up here. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned digital exclusion.
Yes.
So you see a trend for more things to be done online with apps. Is there any pressure at all from government or law on commercial organisations to hold a space for those who are not digitally connected, or is it simply a matter of commercial judgment for each company concerned?
I know of no pressure from government, which is trying to say to businesses, think about the alternative to digital, because you must, because there are people who find it more and more difficult. And I'm not speaking for your age, but at my age, I was not brought up with a phone or a computer, so I've had to learn these things, whereas my children have been brought up with them, and they do it instinctively. But I can't do it instinctively, and it gets more and more difficult. I was working for some publisher which was taken over by an American firm, and they sent a questionnaire about payment, how they would make payment, and I could not understand the language, let alone navigate my way from beginning to end. It was entirely American, so I said to the publisher who was here in this country, I can't understand that. He said, oh, don't bother with it. I mean, you know, that's difficult, isn't it? What do we ignore? Yes, we have to do this. It's important. Often you're asked to do things, and my son will say, oh, ignore it. How do you know what to ignore? Digital exclusion is really not on the map sufficiently.
And I think that, I mean, you were saying earlier about a memoir.
Yes.
One thing, certainly with my father, I found it would have been so great if a few years before he was no longer able to, you know, we could get the boxes of photos out and say, who's this?
Yes.
Because now I've got
Yes.
hundreds of photos of people, I just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other question I had about digital exclusion is sort of related, that a lot of our correspondence now is via email.
Yes.
What happens then to everyone's emails?
Yes.
You know, after they are no longer able to deal with them, or after they die?
Well, I mean, there are all sorts of arrangements with PayPal and Microsoft, with Outlook and Apple, and they can be kept, or they can be destroyed, or they can be memorialized. You know, this sort of
The Facebook
Instagram
page,
and Facebook page. They all have provision in some way or another for what happens. But of course, you know, they're mostly quite different, not all the same. There isn't any uniformity about it, which makes it more difficult. But that's in essence. You have to go to the memorial page to discover what to do.
Yeah. Okay, is there a final question here? Oh, right, one final question up at the front here, I think, and then we could perhaps call things to a halt. Thank you.
Concerning bank accounts, in the event of a joint bank account,
Yes.
if the
Now you're getting into complicated territory.
so what happens if the other account holder passes?
Yes.
What happens with the?
In my experience, it varies.
Okay.
I know somebody who had a small business with another partner, not a personal partner, but a business partner, and the account was in joint names. The business had to keep going. It needed funds, and the bank manager said, "No, I can't deal with this joint account. You know, he's dead, you're alive." But it doesn't work like that. On the other hand, some banks perhaps a little more flexible these days with that, but the joint account has to be transferred into a single person's name. And that has to be done, obviously, under the authority of the bank.
And would that apply to spouses as well? So in this case of
Apply to anyone.
anyone?
Yeah, if there's a
Whether you're married,
joint account,
if you're
it's Yeah, I mean, it's always easy, like I said, with IHT and so on, being married, because they will think sometimes more sensitively and say, right, we understand that's a sensitive difficulty, and that we will arrange that and make sure you have the money meanwhile. But often when somebody dies and they hold money in their sole name in a bank account, and that is passed on by will, but there has been no probate granted yet. Banks sometimes can be flexible and say, well, I'll let you spend so much out of that account as long as you tell me what it's for, or it might pay for the funeral expenses, but actually releasing money is often at the will of the bank. Yeah, there's no fixed rule about it.
Okay, so I think we should draw things to a close. Just to remind everyone here, though, that Sir Peter is back on February the 5th next year to speak about the experience of coroner's reports and in what happens in an inquest.
And to tell you what coroners do.
Yes.
What is a coroner?
Yes.
What does he or she do? And why do they do it? Why do we have coroners and inquests? What is the value of it? And I will explain that in February.
Wonderful. So come back here then, and let's thank Sir Peter once again for a really interesting talk.